The final days of King Solomon reflect a story filled with lessons, glory, and tragedy. Even the wisest man in biblical history, chosen by God to lead his people, faced failures that marked the end of his reign. Today we'll delve into this fascinating narrative, from his rise to the throne to his final moments. So get ready, as this is a deep dive into the life of one of Israel's greatest kings. Solomon, the son of King David and Bathsheba, ascended to the throne in the midst of familial conflict. After David's death, his brother Adonijah tried to seize the throne. However, the intervention of the prophet Nathan and his mother Bathsheba ensured that Solomon, God's chosen one, was crowned king. This choice was no accident. God had revealed to David that Solomon would be his successor and the one to build the temple in Jerusalem. In 1 Chronicles 22, God told David, "Your son will be a man of peace and rest. I will give him peace and quiet during his reign. His name will be Solomon, and I will grant Israel peace and rest during his reign." This divine promise shaped the beginning of Solomon's rule. He started his reign by promoting unity and stability in Israel. But it was his wisdom that set him apart from all other leaders of his time. This wisdom didn't come solely from experience or natural ability, but from a divine covenant. Early in his reign, Solomon sought God's guidance in a pivotal moment documented in 1 Kings 3. During a night in Gibeon, after offering sacrifices to the Lord, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon's response demonstrated his humility and sense of responsibility. He asked for wisdom to govern with justice and discernment, rather than wealth or a long life. This choice pleased God deeply. As a reward, God not only granted Solomon unparalleled wisdom, but also promised him riches, honor, and a kingdom unmatched in Israel's history. One of the most famous episodes illustrating Solomon's wisdom is the judgment between two women disputing the maternity of a child. This event, recorded in 1 Kings 3:16-28, showcased his ability to discern truth in seemingly unsolvable situations. Solomon proposed an extraordinary solution: to cut the child in half and give each woman a portion. One woman agreed, but the other pleaded for the child's life, preferring to give him to the other woman rather than see him harmed. Her genuine love revealed her as the true mother, and Solomon ordered the child to be given to her. Beyond his wisdom, Solomon is renowned for one monumental achievement: the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. This project, initially envisioned by his father David, was carried out by Solomon with dedication and reverence. The temple symbolized God's continuous presence among his people and served as the spiritual and cultural center of Israel. Built with precious materials such as cedar from Lebanon and pure gold, the temple showcased Solomon's administrative prowess and the kingdom's prosperity. The chosen site for the temple, Mount Moriah, held profound significance. It was the same place where Abraham had demonstrated his faith by being willing to sacrifice his son Isaac. This connection reinforced the continuity of God's special relationship with his people. The temple became a symbol of unity and worship in Israel, a testament to Solomon's reign as one of unparalleled peace and grandeur. But Solomon wasn't just celebrated for his wisdom and the temple. He was also a master of international relations, solidifying trade and diplomatic alliances. The visit of the Queen of Sheba, recorded in 1 Kings 10, is a remarkable example of this. She traveled from a distant land, bringing a caravan laden with gold, spices, and precious stones to test Solomon's wisdom. Impressed by his answers and the wealth of his kingdom, the queen acknowledged Solomon's greatness and the blessing of God upon him. However, despite these achievements, Solomon was human, and like all of us, vulnerable to failure. Over time, he began to stray from God's commands, and these deviations would have profound consequences for both him and the kingdom of Israel. Despite his many accomplishments and the divine wisdom granted to him, the later years of Solomon's life were marked by choices that led him away from God's commandments. These decisions gradually eroded the spiritual foundation of his reign, resulting in consequences that impacted both him and the people of Israel. One of Solomon's greatest deviations was his relationships with foreign women. In 1 Kings 11:1-3, we learn that he took many wives, including princesses from neighboring nations like Egypt and Phoenicia, totaling 700 wives and 300 concubines. While these marriages were common political strategies to strengthen alliances, they went against God's explicit instructions, which prohibited marrying women from nations that worshipped other gods. The danger lay not only in their number, but in the religious practices they brought with them. These wives introduced the worship of foreign gods into the kingdom of Israel. Rather than standing firm in his faith in the God of Israel, Solomon began to tolerate these practices and even participated in them. This tolerance culminated in one of the most controversial actions of his life, the construction of altars for foreign gods like Chemosh and Molech to please his wives. These altars, often associated with practices like human sacrifice, represented a direct violation of God's commandments. This deviation was not only a personal failing but also had widespread implications for the kingdom of Israel. The people, witnessing their king allowing idolatry, began to follow his example. The nation, once united under the worship of the God of Israel, became spiritually fragmented. This idolatry provoked God's anger, who had warned against such actions. In 1 Kings 11:9-13, God confronted Solomon regarding his sins. He declared that because of Solomon's disobedience, the kingdom would be divided after his death. However, out of respect for his covenant with David, God promised that this division would not occur during Solomon's lifetime. One tribe, Judah, would remain under the rule of Solomon's lineage, while the other tribes would be given to a new leader. Even though this judgment was delayed, the consequences of Solomon's actions began to manifest during his reign. Adversaries started to rise against him, a direct result of his spiritual decline. Two of these adversaries were Hadad the Edomite and Rezon, the son of Eliada, both of whom challenged Solomon's authority and caused unrest in the kingdom. However, the most significant adversary was Jeroboam, one of Solomon's trusted officials. Jeroboam's leadership qualities and influence made him a key figure in the coming division of the kingdom. God's plan for Jeroboam's future leadership was revealed through the prophet Ahijah. In a symbolic act, Ahijah tore a new cloak into 12 pieces and gave 10 of them to Jeroboam, representing the 10 tribes he would govern. This event foreshadowed the division of Israel into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom under Jeroboam's rule and the southern kingdom, comprised of Judah and Benjamin, which would remain under the Davidic dynasty. As Solomon faced these external and internal threats, he also bore the spiritual consequences of his choices. The man once known for his unparalleled wisdom and devotion to God was now burdened by the fallout of his apostasy. His achievements and wealth could not fill the void left by his growing distance from God. The later years of Solomon's reign were a mixture of glory and shadow. He remained respected for his wisdom and monumental accomplishments, but his legacy was tarnished by the consequences of his disobedience. The idolatry and compromises he allowed to take root in Israel left a lasting impact on the nation, setting the stage for division and strife. The final days of King Solomon's life reflect the complexity of his reign, marked by extraordinary accomplishments but overshadowed by spiritual failures. Despite being the wisest man of his time, his choices ultimately led to significant consequences for himself and the future of Israel. As described in 1 Kings 11:41-43, Solomon reigned in Jerusalem for 40 years. During this time, he elevated Israel to a position of immense prosperity and influence. The construction of the Temple of Jerusalem stood as the pinnacle of his achievements, symbolizing God's presence among his people. Yet, the spiritual decline brought about by Solomon's tolerance of idolatry began to undermine the foundation of his kingdom. God's anger toward Solomon's actions didn't result in his immediate removal from the throne, but the repercussions were inevitable. God decreed that the kingdom would be divided after Solomon's death, a judgment that would alter the course of Israel's history. Out of loyalty to his covenant with David, God preserved one tribe, Judah, for Solomon's lineage. This ensured that the Davidic dynasty would continue, ultimately leading to the fulfillment of God's plan through Jesus Christ. When Solomon passed away, he was buried in the city of David alongside his ancestors. His son, Rehoboam, succeeded him as king. However, Rehoboam inherited a kingdom already burdened by division and unrest. The heavy taxation and centralized power that marked Solomon's reign had left the northern tribes discontented. This discontent erupted into rebellion under the leadership of Jeroboam, who had been promised the rule of 10 tribes by the prophet Ahijah. The rebellion resulted in the division of Israel into 2 kingdoms, the northern kingdom of Israel, led by Jeroboam, and the southern kingdom of Judah, ruled by Rehoboam. This split marked the end of the unified Israel that David and Solomon had worked to establish, ushering in a period of conflict and instability. The legacy of Solomon's later years serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of spiritual compromise. The idolatry and alliances he allowed in his kingdom did not only affect him, but also set the stage for a divided and weakened Israel. The glory and grandeur of his reign were overshadowed by the long-lasting effects of his disobedience to God's commandments. However, Solomon's story is not just a cautionary tale, it also reveals the unchanging faithfulness of God. Despite Solomon's failures, God remained committed to his promises. The preservation of Judah and the continuation of the Davidic line were a testament to God's grace and his greater plan of redemption. The book of Ecclesiastes, traditionally attributed to Solomon, offers a reflective glimpse into his later years. In its pages, Solomon acknowledges the futility of wealth, pleasure, and human achievement apart from God. The book's conclusion: "Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind." Ecclesiastes 12:13 serves as a poignant summary of the lessons Solomon learned too late. As we reflect on the life of Solomon, we are reminded of the importance of remaining faithful to God in all circumstances. Wisdom, wealth, and success, as valuable as they are, cannot replace a life grounded in obedience to God. Solomon's story challenges us to consider our own choices and priorities. Are we placing God at the center of our lives, or are we allowing distractions and compromises to lead us astray? If you've stayed with us through this incredible journey into the life of Solomon, thank you. I encourage you to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring biblical stories and lessons. And let us know in the comments, what lessons do you take from the life of King Solomon? Your thoughts are always welcome. May God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.